He was 72 years old. He had been behind the wheel for 55 years. Not once had he been involved in a collision. Not once had he received a traffic citation. His driving history was spotless. His license was sitting right there in his wallet, and he had absolutely no reason to suspect anything was out of order. Then one morning, just like he had done for the past 2 decades, he logged onto his computer to renew his license online. He completed the form. He pressed submit, and the screen displayed a message he never expected. Online renewal unavailable. You are required to visit your nearest DMV office in person. He did not understand. He got in his car and drove to the DMV. He stood in line for 2 full hours, and when he finally got to the front of the line, the person at the counter said something that hit him like a wall. His license had lapsed 3 weeks earlier. He had been operating a vehicle illegally for 21 consecutive days. His auto insurance had become invalid. And had he been in any kind of accident during that time, every single dollar of damage would have fallen entirely on him. Not because he had done a single thing wrong on the road, not because he had violated one traffic regulation, but simply because nobody had informed him that the rules had shifted, and he was not the only one. That is the reality facing 67 million American senior drivers at this very moment. And if you are over 70, or if you have a parent, a grandparent, or a neighbour who is, you need to pay close attention to what is unfolding right now, because a federal warning has just been released, and it touches every single driver in the United States over the age of 70. The regulations have changed. The deadlines are drawing closer. And if you fail to verify your license status before August, you could be operating a vehicle illegally without the slightest idea that you are doing so. This is not hearsay. This is not a recommendation. This is the law. And if you do not follow it precisely, you are not merely risking a monetary fine. You are risking your driving privileges, your insurance coverage, and your personal independence. Before we get into the details, one thing to mention. This channel reports on federal warnings, newly enacted laws, and significant rule changes the moment they are confirmed, not weeks down the road when you stumble across them in a comment section, or hear about them second-hand from a neighbour who got the information from someone else. That is exactly why you should subscribe to this channel right now and tap the notification bell. It takes no more than 2 seconds, it costs you absolutely nothing, and it guarantees you will not miss the next critical alert that could affect your rights, your freedom, or your personal safety. Go ahead and do that now, then come right back. Now let us get into the federal warning that every driver over 70 must be aware of before August arrives, and why your license could be in jeopardy without a single traffic infraction on your record. The issue this federal warning was created to address is far from straightforward. On one hand, you have the autonomy and independence of more than 67 million Americans aged 65 and older who currently hold valid driver's licenses. That figure represents nearly 1 out of every 5 drivers sharing the road with you. On the other hand, you have the unavoidable realities of aging that can influence a person's ability to drive safely. Reaction times slow down, night vision weakens, peripheral vision narrows, and cognitive shifts can affect judgment and decision-making while behind the wheel. These 2 realities are now in direct conflict with each other. And the federal government has stepped forward with a warning that has sent ripples through every single state DMV across the entire country. But here is what should genuinely alarm you. The federal warning does not simply ask you to check a box and carry on with your day. It demands specific actions from drivers. It enforces tighter renewal timelines. And it establishes a framework in which your license can be suspended, limited, or revoked without you ever committing a single violation on the road. That is correct. You can lose your driving privileges not because of anything you did while operating your vehicle, but simply because you were not aware the rules had been updated. And this does not begin somewhere in Washington. It does not start inside some distant federal building. It begins exactly the way your situation would. Consider this. You are a 73-year-old retired nurse. You have been driving since you were 16 years old. Your driving record is perfect. You drive yourself to the grocery store. You drive to church on Sundays. You drive to watch your grandchildren play soccer. Your license is set to expire in 4 months. You have always renewed it online without any difficulty whatsoever. So you go to the state website, complete the renewal form, and click submit. But this time the screen does not show you a confirmation. Instead it says that in-person renewal is now required. You are puzzled. You call the DMV to ask why. The representative explains that because you are now over 70, you must appear in person for a vision screening, and in certain states, a reaction time evaluation as well. You schedule the appointment. You show up on the scheduled date. You complete the vision test. You believe everything is resolved. But here is the part of this scenario that should truly shake you. The clerk informs you that, as a result of the new federal guidelines, your license will now carry an expiration of every 3 years rather than every 8. You had no idea. You had made no plans around that. And if you allow that 3-year window to pass without renewing, you are operating a vehicle on an expired license. Your insurance becomes void, and you are exposed to financial penalties that can climb into the thousands of dollars. And here is something that should disturb you even further. The federal warning extends to every driver over 70 in every single state across the country. But the manner in which each state applies those rules varies considerably. What applies to drivers in California may be entirely different from what applies in Texas. What is true in Florida may bear no resemblance to the rules in Illinois. And if you do not know the specific requirements of your own state, you are driving without full awareness of your legal obligations, both in a practical and very real sense. According to data from the Insurance Institute for Highway Safety, approximately 19 states mandate additional vision screenings for older drivers. Around 17 states, along with the District of Columbia, restrict online renewal once a driver reaches a certain age. 5 states require physicians to notify the DMV about specific medical diagnoses. And those numbers continue to grow. Each month, more states are tightening their requirements for senior drivers. Not out of a desire to penalise older Americans, but because the data makes a compelling case. In 2023, 7,891 individuals aged 65 and older lost their lives in traffic crashes in the United States. That represented approximately 19% of all road fatalities that year. And with nearly 52 million licensed drivers aged 65 and older on record in 2022, a figure that has jumped roughly 77% since 2004, the scale of this challenge is only increasing over time. The response, the actual federal warning now in full effect, comes from the US Department of Transportation and establishes new guidelines specifically for drivers aged 70 and above. Every single word in that statement matters. Let me translate that into plain, straightforward language. The federal warning does not create a single, uniform, national law. Driver's license regulations in this country are determined at the state level, not by the federal government. There is no blanket national law that automatically revokes or cancels the licenses of drivers who reach age 70. But what the federal government has done is send a direct and unmistakable message to every state in the union. Reinforce your renewal requirements for older drivers or face federal scrutiny. And the states have acted accordingly. As of January 2026, drivers over the age of 70 are confronting a consistent set of changes across most states. Mandatory in-person renewal starting at a defined age. Vision evaluations at every renewal with established minimum acuity standards. Shorter license terms that may only remain valid for 1 to 3 years. And in certain circumstances, practical driving assessments or functional screenings may also be required. This is the new standard. This is the new reality. And August is the deadline by which many of these changes are expected to be fully implemented. But do not breathe a sigh of relief just yet. Here is exactly where most people watching this fall into the trap that transforms a well-intentioned federal warning into a dangerously false sense of security. They assume that because they are capable drivers, because their record is clean, because they have never caused an accident, nothing about this applies to them. And truthfully, most of them will never encounter a single issue. But that very assumption is what blinds them to the hidden pitfalls buried within the system. Those 2 words, state-specific, are doing more work in this federal warning than any others. The federal government establishes the foundation, but every state builds its own version of the structure on top of it. There are 3 particular pitfalls built directly into this system. You need to understand them completely before you ever find yourself needing that knowledge. Pitfall number 1 is the online renewal restriction. More than 17 states, along with the District of Columbia, now block online renewal past a certain age threshold. In Arizona, drivers aged 65 and older may face in-person requirements that override any online option. In California, online renewal is no longer available for drivers aged 70 and above. In Florida, additional requirements kick in for drivers who are 80 or older. In Illinois, drivers aged 79 and above must renew in person every 4 years. Those between 81 and 86 must renew every 2 years, and drivers 87 and older are required to renew in person every single year and must also complete a road test. In Texas, drivers aged 79 and older face more frequent screening requirements. In North Carolina, drivers who are 67 and older must renew every 5 years instead of the standard 8. If you have grown accustomed to renewing your license from the comfort of your kitchen table, that convenience may no longer be available to you. You will be required to appear at the DMV in person. You will stand in line. You will need to bring every required document, and you will need to pass whatever tests are required right there on the spot. If you do not pass the vision test, you are not given another opportunity the following week. The renewal is denied on the spot. That is the end of it. 20 gay. Learn your state's specific renewal rules before your renewal date arrives. This step is not negotiable. Pitfall number 2 is the shortened renewal cycle. Once you cross the age of 70, your license no longer renews on the standard schedule. In many states, renewal now occurs every 3 years. That is a dramatic reduction from the typical 8-year or 10-year renewal cycle most drivers are accustomed to. The DMV will send you a notice reminding you to renew, but that notice arrives just 90 days before your birthday or before your license expires. 90 days. That may sound like more than enough time, but consider this. If you are away travelling, if you are hospitalised, if you have recently moved, or if that piece of mail simply gets misplaced, you can miss that window entirely. And if you miss it, you are driving on an expired licence. You are driving without valid insurance coverage. You are committing a serious legal offence. And you are facing fines that can climb as high as $1,000 or beyond in certain states. Do not allow that to happen to you. Mark the date on your calendar. Set a reminder on your phone. Let a family member know. Do not put all of your trust in a single envelope arriving in your mailbox. Pitfall number 3 is the one that catches the greatest number of people completely off guard. That is the medical reporting requirement. In 5 states, doctors are legally obligated to report specific medical conditions directly to the DMV. California mandates reporting for dementia diagnoses. Nevada requires reporting for certain qualifying medical conditions. New Jersey gives physicians a 24-hour window to make that report. Oregon has the most expansive scope of mandatory reporting obligations in the country. And Pennsylvania provides doctors with a 10-day window to complete the required report. That is correct. Your own physician, the person you rely on to protect your health, is legally required to report you to the DMV if they diagnose you with certain conditions. And you may not even be aware that any report has been submitted until a letter shows up in your mailbox, notifying you that your license is under review. You have no say in the matter. You are not granted a second opinion before the report is filed. You do not get to appeal your doctor's decision prior to submission. The report goes directly to the DMV, and the process is set into motion from that point forward. Make it your business to know your state's reporting laws before you ever find yourself in that situation. This is not an optional precaution. It is essential preparation. But even with full knowledge of everything discussed so far, there exists one single moment that is more dangerous than all of the others combined. It is the moment when you voluntarily hand over your own protection without realizing it. You are seated in your doctor's examination room. Your physician asks you a question. It sounds completely routine. It sounds entirely harmless. They might say, "Have you noticed any lapses in your memory lately?" Or, "Have you been feeling dizzy or lightheaded at any point?" Or, "Have you experienced any episodes of confusion or disorientation?" These questions have the feel of standard medical screening. They seem like something your doctor would ask during any ordinary checkup. But they are not casual inquiries. They are diagnostic questions. And if you respond affirmatively, if you acknowledge any of those symptoms, your physician is legally required to report you in those 5 states mentioned earlier. That is right. The words you speak inside the private space of your doctor's office can directly trigger a mandatory report to the DMV, and once that report has been submitted, there is no undoing it. Do not confirm symptoms that could initiate a mandatory report. Do not hand your physician the information they are required by law to act upon. So what should you actually say in that moment? What are the specific words that serve to protect you? The answer is not to deceive your doctor. Providing your physician with false information is genuinely dangerous. It can result in the wrong diagnosis, incorrect treatment decisions, and potentially severe consequences for your health. The answer is to be informed. Understand precisely which conditions trigger mandatory reporting obligations in your particular state. Ask your physician directly and without hesitation, are you legally required to report this diagnosis or condition to the DMV? And if the answer is yes, make sure you understand fully what that process entails and what it means for your driving privileges. You have every right to that information. You have every right to ask those questions. And you have every right to seek a second medical opinion before any report is ever submitted to the DMV. But you must take the initiative and ask. You must be proactive about this. You cannot assume that your doctor will volunteer the information on their own. A great many physicians do not bring it up at all. Their focus is on your medical care, not on the implications for your driving license. The reporting requirement may not even cross their mind at the moment they make a diagnosis, but once they arrive at that diagnosis, the law compels them to act, and you are the one left managing the fallout. Now let me provide you with a concrete, actionable protocol, a complete step-by-step process you need to carry out in order to protect yourself, preserve your license, and defend your independence before August arrives. Step 1. Check your license expiration date immediately. Do not postpone it. Do not assume you have plenty of time remaining. Do not trust your memory on this. Go to your wallet right now. Take out your license. Look at the expiration date printed on it. If that date falls within the next 6 months, you are already behind the curve. The updated rules mean that waiting until the final weeks before expiration is no longer a viable strategy. You need to begin the renewal process no later than 120 days before your license expires. Give yourself a full additional month as a safety buffer on top of that. If you are approaching your 70th birthday, initiate the renewal process 4 months in advance. If you are currently 72 and your license expires within 6 months, start the process today. Do not wait for a notice to arrive. The form will likely come in the mail, but if it does not, you can download it directly from your state's DMV website. You can also request it over the phone. Do not put your fate in the hands of the postal service. Take responsibility for this yourself. Step 2. Find out exactly what your state requires for drivers over the age of 70. Do not assume your state's rules are identical to what applies in a neighbouring state. Do not assume the requirements are the same as they were 5 years ago. Visit your state DMV's official website and search specifically for the senior driver renewal requirements. Look for the age at which online renewal is no longer permitted. Look for the age at which vision screenings become a mandatory part of the process. Look for the age at which in-person renewal becomes an absolute requirement. Look for the age at which the renewal term becomes shorter. Write every one of those details down. Put the relevant dates on your calendar. Pass that information along to your family members. This is not something you can skip over. This is what preparation looks like. Step 3. Assemble your documents before you set foot in the DMV. You will need your current license in hand, documentation confirming your identity, proof of your current residential address, and any medical forms that your specific state requires you to bring. Certain states will ask for a physician's written certification that you are medically fit to drive. Others will require a formal vision evaluation completed by a licensed optometrist. Gather all of these materials and organise them in a folder. Keep that folder somewhere you will not forget it, whether that is in your car or in your desk at home. Do not wait until the morning of your appointment to start looking for the documents you need. Step 4. Book your DMV appointment well ahead of time. In-person renewals are now mandatory in a large number of states for drivers over 70. Appointment slots fill up weeks and sometimes months in advance. Do not delay scheduling until your license is on the verge of expiring. As soon as your renewal notice arrives, book your appointment. If you find that no appointment is available before your license expiration date, call the DMV directly and request a formal extension. Many states are willing to accommodate drivers who have a scheduled appointment already on the books, but you must make that request. You cannot assume it will be handled automatically on your behalf. Step 5. Prepare yourself for the evaluations ahead of time. If a vision test is required in your state, visit an optometrist and get a thorough eye exam before your DMV appointment date. If you rely on glasses or contact lenses to see clearly, make sure you wear them. If your prescription has been updated or changed, make sure your eyewear reflects that update. If your state requires a reaction time evaluation or a cognitive screening of any kind, take time to practice beforehand. There are resources available online that can help you prepare for these kinds of assessments. Do not walk into that room unprepared. You are not 25 years old anymore. Your reflexes have changed over time. That is perfectly natural, but you need to go in with full awareness of what is being asked of you. Step 6. If you reside in one of the 5 states that carry mandatory physician reporting requirements, have an open and direct conversation with your doctor about it. At your next medical visit, look your physician in the eye and ask them plainly, are you legally required to report any of my current medical conditions to the state DMV? Follow that up by asking which specific conditions would trigger that reporting obligation in your state. Ask them to walk you through what that process looks like from start to finish. And ask whether they have ever been in a situation where they were required to report a patient to the DMV before. This is not an accusatory conversation. This is a collaborative one. Your physician is your partner when it comes to managing your health. They should be fully prepared to discuss this topic with you in an open and transparent way. If they are not willing to engage with you on this, that is meaningful information, and you may want to consider seeking care from a different provider. Step 7. If you receive a diagnosis that triggers mandatory reporting to the DMV, resist the urge to panic. You still have meaningful options available to you. You can request a referral to a certified driving rehabilitation specialist. You can enroll in a defensive driving course to demonstrate your continued competence behind the wheel. You can seek an independent second opinion on your diagnosis. You can collaborate with your physician to address and manage your condition, while simultaneously demonstrating that your driving ability remains safe and intact. The objective here is not to conceal your medical situation. The objective is to actively manage it and to provide evidence that you remain a responsible and capable driver. Step 8. If a letter arrives in your mailbox from the DMV indicating that your license is currently under review, do not discard it. Do not set it aside and assume it is an error that will sort itself out. The DMV will include a deadline by which you must respond. In certain states, you are required to contact the DMV Driver Safety Office within 5 business days of receiving that notice, or your license will be automatically suspended in the interim. In other states, the response window extends to 30 or even 45 days. Regardless of the time frame, deadlines carry serious consequences. Do not miss them. Respond without delay. Pull together your complete medical documentation. Obtain a written statement from your physician certifying that you are medically fit to operate a vehicle. Submit every required document on time and through the proper channels. Step 9. If the DMV moves to impose restrictions on your driving privileges, do not concede defeat. You may well have grounds to appeal that decision. You may also qualify for a restricted license that permits driving during designated hours or within a defined geographic area. A restricted license is not a defeat. It is a practical middle ground. It allows you to remain on the road, it preserves a meaningful degree of your independence, and it reduces risk for both you and for others who share the road with you. If your state makes this option available, ask about it directly. Do not let pride stand between you and a solution that keeps you driving. Step 10, and this is the final step in the protocol, the one that forms your last line of protection once everything else is in place. Document everything thoroughly. Maintain a written record of your renewal date, the results of any test you completed, the outcomes of any medical evaluations conducted, and all written correspondence you have exchanged with the DMV. If you are ever pulled over by law enforcement and questioned about the validity of your license, you will have the documentation right there to confirm that you are in full compliance. If a family member or a physician ever submits a report about you to the DMV, you will have the documentation necessary to mount a challenge to that report. Do not depend on your memory to hold these details. Memory is imperfect over time. Paper holds up indefinitely. And do not ever operate a vehicle without a valid, current license. It sounds like something that goes without saying, but thousands of drivers do exactly that every single year. They forget to renew on time. They operate under the mistaken assumption that their license is still valid. They believe some kind of grace period will shield them from consequences. There is no grace period to rely on. The moment your license expires, you are not legally permitted to drive. If a law enforcement officer pulls you over during that time, your insurance coverage is void. You are looking at fines, points on your record, and potentially the impoundment of your vehicle. Do not let that situation become your reality. Renew on time without exception. Keep your documents accurate and current, and always make it your business to know the applicable rules before you get behind the wheel. This is not about stripping away your freedom. This is about preserving it for as long as possible. The federal warning that has been issued is not intended to punish older Americans. It is designed to keep you safe and to keep everyone else sharing the road with you safe as well. But genuine safety requires knowledge, and acquiring that knowledge requires deliberate action on your part. You now have the knowledge you need. The only remaining question is what you choose to do with it from this moment forward. Do not sit on it and wait until a crisis forces your hand. Do not assume that someone else in your life will take care of this for you. Do not convince yourself that these rules apply to everyone else, but somehow not to you. They do apply to you. They apply to every driver over the age of 70 in every state across this entire country, without exception. And if you choose not to act, you are not merely risking a financial penalty. You are risking your license, your insurance, and the independence you have worked your entire life to maintain. That is the unvarnished truth. That is the warning being delivered to you right now. And that is precisely why you must take action today. Check your license. Verify your expiration date. Look up your state's specific requirements and complete every one of those steps before August arrives. Your freedom depends on it. Your safety depends on it. And the safety of every other person sharing the road with you depends on it as well. This is not optional. This is preparation. This is protection. And this is your responsibility to carry out.